Hello and good day and welcome to Checkpoint on Campus, the happiest place on earth. I am your host, Jacob Brothers, and joined with me as always is Erica Sadora. Erica, how are you today?
Fantastic. How are you doing, Jacob?
I'm doing fantabulous because I secured my place for when I move to a new city, so that is exciting.
Yes.
But you're not here for that. You
Yes.
guys are here for collegiate esports. And this week in the queue, we have the NACE Starleague Grand Finals recap. We're going to be talking about the Canadian Collegiate Esports League. We're going to hit on our weekly preview review. And we're going to be wrapping up with the HBCU Madden tournament conversation. All coming up in this week's episode of Checkpoint on Campus. Stick around. Welcome back once again to Checkpoint on Campus. Jacob Brothers is still here. Erica Sadora is still there. And we are joined by our best friend, Dominic Shotson. Dominic, how are you today?
I'm doing pretty good. Excited to talk to you guys.
Absolutely. And so what we are going to be talking about is the NACE Starleague Grand Finals. They had 4 games, all have finals on the same day, and it was a lot of hype. Literally every single game had something really great go on. So Dom, talk to us about Rocket League.
Yeah, so we're going to talk a little bit more about what happened in the CRL Collegiate Cardball Association later in our review section. But, what we saw in NACE Starleague was Northwood come out to play. I came onto this show, and full transparency, I questioned Northwood. I said, Northwood, they don't got it anymore. I said, UNLV, Bay State, Columbia, all of them that were going into the finals of that tournament. I said, Northwood, nah, they didn't. They split them. They spread themselves too thin. They put too much butter on the cracker. They messed up by splitting their rosters up. Well, I'm here to be the person and admit that I'm wrong. Northwood came into the NACE Starleague final. They faced up against Bay State, their Eastern Conference rival from CRL, and they just started smacking them around. They took a 3-0 lead in that series in NACE Starleague. But Bay State, they are no slouch. They came back in Game 4, and they established themselves in the series. They won Game 4. They won Game 5 after that. And, everyone kind of started reading the tea leaves, and they're like, maybe we're going to see a reverse sweep. Bay State is pretty good. These guys are pretty good at Rocket League, too. But Northwood came out in Game 6, and they just, they flattened Bay State finally. They woke back up. I think that they kind of started, taking their foot off the gas pedal a little bit once they took that 3-0 lead and thought maybe Bay State was just going to roll over. But they woke up and they took the game 6, and they won the series in 6. And, it was just an outstanding performance, and it's what we've come to expect from Northwood when it comes to Rocket League. They just reestablished their dominance.
Yeah, it's what we came to expect, but also something that we needed to see. Because we just need to see that they still had it, because we all questioned it. And then they're like, yeah, maybe we did kind of let off on the gas, so we'll just come back. And now they're back. Erica, what can you tell us about Call of Duty Cold War?
First of all, such a close game with all of the games, but I want to shout out specifically Independence Community College going 5-1, freaking 5-1 against St. Clair College, while St. Clair College kicked their butts. It was a best of 9 with rotation of the maps with Hardpoint, SND, and Control. Again, I want to shout out that team because they were incredible. And as we know, the prize pool for first place was $4,000, second place got $2,000, and third to fourth place got $1,000. Still big bucks, and all of the teams did incredible, Jacob.
Fantabulous. Thank you, Erica. And then for the last 2 tournaments, the first one, we had Counter-Strike Global Offensive. And so that was Drexel versus Davenport University. Everyone thought that Davenport was going to be the winner, and that did not happen. So we had a major upset. So going into that first map of Inferno, everyone thought it was going to be Davenport because that map was 16-6. It was not close. And Davenport was like, yeah, we are the champs. And then Drexel did a little finger wag over in Nuke. Nuke is actually a very common map where a lot of because Nuke is actually a very common map for teams to struggle on. And so for Nuke, everyone thought that it was Davenport's map. Turned out it was Drexel's map, and they were able to maintain an early lead, and they won that 16-2. So then moving on to the final map, Nova in Overpass, Nova from Drexel was able to kind of slam the door in Davenport's face just as they were getting momentum to win that whole tournament 2-1. It was really close, competitive, great match. And then last but not least, near and dear to my heart, we have Overwatch. And it was, once again, kind of like Rocket League, Northwood versus Bay State. Who would have thought? Rivalries across multiple games. This is so freaking great. And so it's so exciting. So Northwood won this match 3-0. But with that said, this match was absolutely electric. Bay State was involved in every single game. They are both two very intelligent teams that are well-rounded and they know what they're doing. But a strength to Bay State is that they never compromise their game. And what I mean by that is like they respawn camp twice within 3 games, and they still played the way that they would play as if they were 2-0, which for a team you really need to do. You need to not break away from your game plan if you know it works. So they were aggressive at all times, which is both good and bad, given that they didn't win that game. But we saw Hanzo versus Hanzo. We saw Widow versus Widow. We saw Baptiste versus Baptiste. Like, we got way more than we deserved to see. It was freaking tight. But ultimately, Northwood was a better oiled machine. Their rotations were just a little bit cleaner. They got more picks. They did a great job, in particular, cycling out their front line and back line, which in Overwatch is important because Northwood is a very aggressive team. And when you have people like, Dynasty, NOS, Cowman, Landon, which are all absolutely filthy, you're able to cycle out your front line and back line to where even if your DPS is in the front, you're not going to get picked off right away, and you're going to get value from that more aggressive positioning. And I mean, Seasons and Leap were also amazing, but for Bay State, I want to shout out Cabe. Cabe is the sneakiest tracer that I've ever seen in the game. And I think that Bay State is going to have a very successful career coming forward, but we'll be talking about that a little bit later. But coming up next, we're going to be talking about the Canadian Collegiate Esports League after this.
No, we don't come to play. Nah, hey, no, we don't come to play. Where we walk and where we talk, they know we don't come to play.
We are still here, and we are talking about the Canadian Collegiate Esports League. We touched on this briefly a couple months ago, but there's now been more information coming out about it. And so just to remind you, there are 12 schools that are in this league, and those schools are, get ready, that is the University of Victoria, University of Regina, Lethbridge College, University of Lethbridge, Northern Alberta Institute of Technology, University of Winnipeg, Simon Fraser University, York University, University of Manitoba. Geography was not my strong suit. McGill University, University of Windsor, and MacEwan University. And so with all those schools mentioned, Erica, what can you tell us about this whole league?
I can tell you straight up that I'm pretty excited about it. The Canadian Collegiate Esports League is a mouthful to say, but what else is a mouthful is that all of these Canadian students who have previously not had the opportunity to be in a league, specifically for college students, finally have that. They're aiming for a future where collegiate esports students have a home for scholarships, events, and overall opportunities. I'm pretty excited for it, especially since in league we've seen some Canadian teams, and now they can actually have other Canadian teams join, and that's so exciting. But also I wanted to touch up on Canadian Collegiate Esports League TV. This is a legitimate sports channel, and it will be featuring esports content, so you can watch esports on your TV. I think that's pretty cool. It will also feature brands and sponsors, but the first tournament that this league will be happening on will be Winter 2021, and it will be a Forza Motorsport racing tournament. So, Jacob, I'm looking forward to it. I love some Canadians, honestly. I'll say right now.
I do. I'm a hockey fan, so I can also say I also love Canadians. But I love that the first tournament is not one of the traditional ones. I mean, Forza Motorsport, I honestly don't even know how those tournaments would look. So I am excited to see how that tournament's going to look. And also, if they're already going this direction, I'm really hoping we get an NHL tournament because those games are very fascinating to watch. And if these teams have their Canadian passion towards that sport, that tournament could be a lot of fun. But the main talking point that we have with this whole situation here is, do we think that other countries are going to eventually get to this point, or do we think this is more of a Canadian exclusive thing?
Honestly, I freaking hope so. I think a lot of countries can take inspiration from North America, which sounds a little bit arrogant, but we see already a lot of imports coming in from other countries, specifically in League. We see a lot of imports from the academy to the pro scene to even the collegiate scene. So I think this is a step forward where other countries can be like, hey, we have a similar interest with these college students. Why not make this an actual organization where these college students can blossom?
Yeah, no, I agree. Scouting is actually a great point because like Harrisburg, even like for Overwatch and stuff, they would get people from overseas and in different countries. And so I think if other countries start kind of showcasing their own country, that makes scouting even easier. I guess the only hurdle would be that I know that education it varies from country to country. So like what classifies as a university, what classifies as a conference, as a college and what classifies as a building of education. All just kind of depends on where you're at. But I think best case scenario, every country has a setup like this, and then we have a freaking world championship. Like, I think that would be the absolute coolest thing ever. Once again, this Forza Motorsport tournament will be happening in winter of 2021, so keep an eye out for it. And I cannot wait to see what the Canadian Collegiate Esports League does in the future. Coming up next, we are going to be having your weekly preview review after this. Hello once again. We are still here, but with Dom back, we were lucky to get him twice this week. How do we do it? I don't know, but welcome to your preview review. And so we're going to talk about Overwatch first. Overwatch, there was actually 3 Overwatch tournaments that took place this week. The first one being NACE, which we already touched on. But the second one was the Collegiate Homecoming Grand Final, which involved Northwood once again versus Redbird Esports. Now, if this had happened, I don't know, a month ago, Redbird would have won this 3-0. And we'd be over here crying the blues of, oh, Redbirds have taken over Collegiate Overwatch. No one can stop them. What's the point of a competitive market? Yada, yada, yada. But all those teams went on to the Overwatch League. And so the Redbirds had an entirely new roster, with the exception of maybe 1 or 2 players. And so Northwood won this matchup 3-1. And so the other tournament was NECC, the Overwatch Grand Finals, and Bay State was against Northwood once again. So the rivals met a second time in the same day. And Northwood won that 4-1. And so one thing we're doing a little bit different in this segment are kind of like takeaways for the space. And for Overwatch, I think that this means that Northwood is here to stay. They were never gone, but they're back, if that makes sense. Kind of Redbird showed up for a brief holiday, and then they went on the road. And so Northwood, I kind of anticipate them winning most of their games. I anticipate them being in the finals once again for this regular season of Overwatch. But I also think that Bay State is going to be a strong number 2. If I'm Harrisburg, if I'm Maryville, if I'm Winthrop, I'm a little worried about Bay State because they are a fundamentally phenomenal team, and they can stand up to the big dogs. So if I'm not the number 1 spot right now, I'm a little worried about my smaller throne being dethroned. And so that's Overwatch. So Dom, what can you tell us about Rocket League?
It's going to sound awfully similar to what you just talked about, because we're talking about Northwood and Bay State again, right?
Yeah.
The 2 best teams in Collegiate Rocket League. We talked about them in the NACE Starleague matching up. So the fall series, we previewed it. We previewed the playoffs, the finals. Our beloved UNLV, they fell short of the championship we were hoping for. We're still happy that they made it. We came out on top in the West, but as many people in CRL will tell you that cover the collegiate esport, the East runs CRL, and Bay State and Northwood, they came out of the East. The Northwood was a 2 seed, and we questioned, like we already talked about, how successful they were going to be coming into this tournament, just looking at the results that had led up to it. But like you said, this isn't, shouldn't be a surprise because we know Northwood. We know what they're capable of. We've seen it over time and time again, but we just needed to be reminded of what they're capable of. And they reminded us. They reminded us in NACE Starleague. And before that, what we saw in the fall series of CRL, Northwood came out on top. They beat Bay State in the championship there as well. They reestablished their dominance. And kind of like you have just said in terms of Overwatch, that now moving forward, when we look at CRL and we look at that landscape, I think unquestionably we have to, and we shouldn't have questioned them in the first place, but we have to remind ourselves, Northwood is unquestionably the top team in that collegiate esport of Rocket League. They have the history to go with it. This is not a one-off. They've done it time and time again. They continue to dominate. They continue to, even when it looks like they're maybe, starting to fall off, then they come back and they remind you in the strongest way possible. They've done it again. And it doesn't seem like they're going anywhere. Their team is young. They have 2 rosters. They're going to figure it out no matter what. They're always going to be right there at the tippy top of the competition. If not winning championships, they're always going to be right there, running it up and being that second spot. Bay State, though, like you had mentioned, Bay State looks like a team that's here to stay as well. So long as they want to be in the space, they're going to be right there with Northwood, competing for that top spot. And really, at that point, everyone else, just get out of the way.
I love that. He said if they want to be there. That's such an important mental aspect of a competitive landscape. So, but yeah, Northwood had to put us back in our place, which was their total right. But Erica, what can you tell us about League of Legends?
Unfortunately, not a lot, which breaks my heart because you guys are so hyped up about your games, and I'm over here like I'm still recovering, like mentally and physically from the Philly Esports tournament. I'm sure a lot of teams are, but keep an eye out for the season that's happening literally next month, January 17th. All the teams who are going to be playing are going to make an incredible upset because we have our past champions, Winthrop and Maryville, kind of going head to head again. But then we have our new contenders, UST and SLU, kind of bringing up their ranks, and it's really exciting to see what the teams can bring, what new meta and what new like analysis we can bring up to the table. But I'm excited. Everyone else should be excited. What about you, Jacob?
Yeah, League looks like it's going to have the most drama, which in sports, all we want is drama. So I
Yeah.
can't wait. I can't wait to see what happens in the higher levels of that tournament. But closing out, there's also some collegiate Halo coming. There is a college Halo organization that's running a double elimination tournament taking place on December 10th and 11th. So if you want to get in on that, go look them up on Twitter at College Halo GG. And with that, that is our preview review. Coming up next will be our HBCU Madden tournament conversation. Hello for the last time this week. Jacob Brothers is still here. Erica Sadora is still there, but we are joined by another friend of the show. We are joined by Sebastian Rooney. Sebastian, how you doing today, man?
I'm good. How are you guys?
We're doing
Good.
great. But
Great.
we're here to talk about the HBCU Madden tournament. And Sebastian, you know all about it. So tell us what we need to know about this tournament.
Well, remember, I don't know if you guys remember last year, but this tournament was supposed to happen Super Bowl weekend in Tampa, but due to obvious restrictions and such, they had to do it online. But this year, with the second annual HBCU Madden tournament, they're hoping to have it take place Super Bowl weekend in LA with the Super Bowl. So another cool thing. And considering how average of game Madden is year after year, they usually do put on great tournaments with great prize pools. That this tournament is no different. Somehow Madden this tournament has a $10,000 prize pool. You get Super Bowl tickets, controllers, and a whole lot more. I don't know how they're pulling all this stuff out, but it's great to see how EA and NFL are coming together for such amazing prize pools. So
It's interesting that this hasn't happened more often. I mean, you have the football video game happening at the same time as the football sport. I feel like if you have a sport game, that should be happening more often. I mean, getting tickets for the Super Bowl even more goes hand in hand. And it's also HBCU, so even on a representation standpoint, like all of it's great. And so I'm sure this year will be a huge success, and then the next year will be will be a huge success. And so the qualifiers had happened on December 5th, and the top 16 will be happening at that Super Bowl weekend in LA. And so keep an eye out for that. I think it'll be a great competition. Hopefully Matthew Stafford is there in his own arena. I hope he does great this year. But yeah, how dare you? He's my man. but with that, that is our show. Thank you so much for watching. For more, check us out on checkpointxp.com. And remember that we will always and forever and beyond plus ultra love you. Have a great week.